Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Ryan.
I'm Bethany.
And we are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
And today we're talking about Fluxx, the board game. This is designed by Andrew Looney, and it is published by Looney Labs.
So you may be familiar with Fluxx, the card game. In fact, we just recently reviewed 2 of the Fluxx games. Basically, it's a card game that's very chaotic. You have these rules that are going to be changing constantly, as well as goals that are changing as well. Well, guess what? They also have Fluxx, the board game. So you actually have a board that you're going to be moving around on. This game has been around for a little while, but they recently redone the packaging, so it's extremely small, very portable, matches up with the other Fluxx sizes as well. So this is going to be a very, very compact, very travel-friendly version of the game. What's going to happen basically is you have a board laid out, and you are trying to move your pawns so that they're landing on the 2 ingredients that you need to make up a goal. I'm going to give you a quick overview of how to play. Alright, here is the setup for Fluxx, the board game. We've got our starting tile in the middle there, and then surrounding it are all of the different objectives. Alright, so over here we have a goal card. We actually have a stack of 5 goal cards. The goal in this game is we are trying to be the person who achieves 3 goal cards currently. But as you can see, the goals can change, as well as all the other rules in this game, because like all Fluxx games, all of the rules in this game are subject to change. So the way this is going to work is we're going to draw a certain number of cards based off of this little chart here. We're going to play a certain number of cards, move around a little bit. We also might have a hand limit. We also are going to have the ability to manipulate the board a little bit if any of those abilities are activated. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is we're trying to have our pawns located around the board, landing on different spots that match up to the goal card. At the beginning of the game, every player is going to get a chance to modify one of these rules by 1 spot. So let's say I want to draw more cards, so I'm going to move this up 1. And then Bethany is going to, what she wants to do is she wants to play more cards. So she's going to move that peg up. Alright, so now on our turn, we're going to draw 2 cards at the beginning of every turn, because that's what the new rule is. Alright, so now we're going to get a chance to play our cards. In this case, we have to play 2 of them. So the first one we want to play, let's play a card that says there's a new hand limit. We can shift the hand limit peg forward or backward 1 notch. So let's move it to this, which now states that every player has a hand limit of 3 cards. Or maybe for our second card, we play something like this new rule that says shift the winning peg up or down 1 notch. So now, in order to win the game, we would need to have 4 of those goals completed in order to win. In the original game of Fluxx, there was these keeper cards. You put them in front of you, and they would basically be part of the ingredients that you needed to complete the goals. In this game, because you don't actually have the ingredients that you need, you have to just simply be there, they replace them with these leaper cards that are keeper cards. So what we can do is we can take our pawn and we can leap to whatever symbol's on there. In this case, the music. So after you've played as many cards as you're allowed to play, based off of the chart over here again, now you're going to go to the moving. You can move your meeples interrupted by the cards, however you want to do it. So you can maybe move 1 spot, then play a card, then move another spot, then play another card. However you want to do it, as long as you move and play exactly what you're supposed to play. In this case, let's move our meeple 2 spots. We're going to come out of that central tile off of any one of the arrows where it says start. And now, would you know it, of course I planned it this way, but we've got our meeples on music, we've got our meeples on the TV, we've completed this goal, we're going to put it in front of us, showing that we've got 1 victory point, and we are 1 step closer to meeting our goal. On a future turn, perhaps we drew some more goals. If you ever want to add more goals to the stack, what you simply do is just put it there on top. And now that is the goal that everyone's trying for. And again, if we had a movement phase right after this, 1, 2, and now we're able to complete this goal. We've got 1 of our meeples on the TV, 1 of our meeples on the toaster. We've now finished that goal, and again, we're adding it to our victory point supply, or our goal supply, in order to win. When you are moving around the board, there's a couple things to watch out for. We've got these spots over here. These are kind of these portals that you can move around and bounce back and forth from. This can be a really handy way to move around the board. Also, each spot can only contain 1 meeple, 1 pawn, except for these octagon spots. Multiple people can be in those octagon spots, which is going to be really handy. If you ever land where someone else is, they're going to get bumped to an adjacent spot. We also have 3 rules on the board over here as well. They say that there's a rotate option, an uprooting a tile option, and wrapping around the board option. If those are ever turned on, instead of doing a movement action of moving your pawn around the board, you can actually move tiles as well. So perhaps you want to rotate a tile, or perhaps you want to pick a tile up and move it somewhere else, or you can do a wraparound, meaning when you get to the edge of the board, you can wrap around to the other side of it. Having those rules on can really mess with your ability to move around the board, or can assist it. There are also actions that you can play. There are things like this. This one says you can draw 3 cards off the top of the deck and then play 2 of them. And again, you have to play 2 of them, just like you have to play whatever your requirement is there. So even if it's things that might help your opponents or hurt you in some way, you still have to do it. Or maybe you have an action card like this. This one says you can rotate colors. So we were the blue meeples, but now we're going to be the red pawns instead because someone played that rotate colors action. So just like Fluxx the card game, the rules are constantly changing. How many you can draw, how many you can play, how you can move around the board, how many cards you can have in your hand, how the board itself can move around, and possibly other rules as well. So that is Fluxx the board game. Remember, you are trying to complete as many goals as possible by finishing off these pairs, and then, based off of what the win condition is, have that many goals. And the first player to complete that is going to be declared the winner.
Okay, the player pieces in this are so quirky. I absolutely loved it. You could have just had all the pawns in different colors, but they have the pawns and the cubes and the meeples, which is also really nice for colorblind friendliness because you can know those shapes and who it is. You even have to get the card in front of you so you know like what everybody is. But I just thought that was so quirky and I liked that.
All right, so in regular Fluxx, you always have one goal. Once one person has completed that goal, they've paired up the ingredients they need to make that goal, the game's over. And it might be like a minute or two, and sometimes it's much longer than that, depending on whatever's happening. But sometimes you get lucky, you just are able to make it happen right away. And for a game like this, where you actually have a little bit more setup involved, you know, for regular Fluxx, you just literally shuffle the cards and you're playing, which is fantastic. This is a little bit more. You're setting up the board, you're shuffling the cards, and you're setting out your pieces and all that kind of stuff. So if you had it just be one goal, you might be the same thing. You might have it over in 30 seconds, and you're like, now you got to reset, you know. But now, because of the way that this is set up, you have to have at least 3 goals to win. And so the goal cards are already kind of set out there. There's a stack of 5 of them to start the game off with, and then more can get added later as well. And that's going to make it so that the game can last, you know, can kind of reach its peak, you know, have its climax of excitement.
You have a chance.
Yes.
You get a chance.
One person can't just get a goal and be done. You actually need to have 3 or more goals because, again, as in all Fluxx games, the rules can change. And in this, the amount of goals needed to win the game can change as well. But at least 3.
So in regular Fluxx, the rules change and there can just be cards everywhere and you kind of have to remember what the rules of the game are. But in this, what they are is there's the rules and then can you do it or can you not do it or how many you can do it, and there's a pig that keeps track of that for you. So it is kind of easier to keep track of what the rules are. You can just glance at that pig board and figure out what you can and cannot do. So that was nice that it was easy to keep track of that.
Okay, I actually want to like make another version of that pegboard and put it with the other Fluxx games as well. So that way, like, you can kind of do away with a little bit of that chaos. You just know right by looking at it what your options are. Now there was additional actions as well that that can affect the rules. I will say that in regular Fluxx games, I like leaning into the chaos a little bit. It's what differentiates the game, right? It makes it so that it's so silly and there's so many different rules going at it, and it's almost hard to remember in a good way. It's like you're like, oh shoot, I can't have that many cards in my hand, I gotta get rid of some, or oh, I gotta play a whole bunch of cards, or oh no, I have to play a whole bunch of cards, or whatever that looks like. I like that in regular Fluxx and all the other weird rules that go along with it. I felt like this is a little bit more linear. It felt like you were kind of progressing this, kind of just this little arch of a game, and there wasn't as much of the silliness. There wasn't crazy actions as much. There wasn't crazy rules getting thrown at you at all times. It felt more like just a regular game, with some Fluxx DNA in the background of it. So I enjoyed that, but at the same time, I kind of missed a little bit of that. Where's the complete utter nuttiness of it, you know, a little bit.
Well, speaking of that, if I had to choose between Fluxx the board game or one of the newer editions of Fluxx, I would probably choose the card games. Nope, let's rephrase that. I would choose the card games. It's not a probably. This was fine. I just really liked what the card games did more and the chaotic element in that more, that I would always gravitate towards that instead of playing the board game.
That being said, I'm going to throw a counterpoint in that if you are someone who likes a little bit more control in games and you've played Fluxx and you're like, that wasn't for me, I didn't like how chaotic and silly it was, you might enjoy Fluxx the board game for that very reason. You're like, you know what, I actually get a chance to put my meeples where I want them, and on top of that, I get a chance to control my destiny with the goals, and I know there's going to be more goals after that, and no one can shut me out. You might gravitate more towards the Fluxx the board game. I think you're going to have a little bit more control and a little bit more fun that way as well. So, I think this is a really cool addition to the, well, it's not an addition, it's been around for a little while, but another version of that you can enjoy, another way that you can enjoy the Fluxx system in a board game format.
Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see our videos as they come out. Until then, you can find us in all of these places.
You guys, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye.